My name is Madison. I am a size 20, and I have always been comfortable in my own skin. I am a woman who knows exactly who she is. And when I became pregnant with my first child, I promised myself that I would not let the toxic, diet-obsessed culture of modern motherhood ruin the magic of creating a life. I kept that promise, but the people around me, specifically one person in my husband's family, did not. This is the story of how my sister-in-law, a woman whose entire identity was built around the aggressive curation of perfection, decided that my pregnant body was a visual failure. It is the story of how she weaponized my baby shower, an event meant to celebrate the arrival of my child, turning it into a public, humiliating intervention about my weight. And most importantly, it is the story of how I didn't scream, didn't cry, and didn't give her the satisfaction of a breakdown. Instead, I sat down, ate the cake, smiled for the cameras, and then quietly, methodically, dismantled her entire social and marital facade using nothing but 47 screenshots and a Google Drive folder. Let me introduce you to the Mitchell family dynamic. My husband, Ryan, is the kind of man who makes you feel like you are the only person in a crowded room. He is fiercely protective, deeply loving, and completely immune to the superficial pressures of his family's social circle. Ryan is an architect. He appreciates structure, stability, and authenticity. His older brother, David, is a corporate attorney. David is a good man, but he is a busy man. He operates in a high-stress, high-stakes world, which means he delegates almost all of his social and domestic life to his wife. Her name is Melissa. Melissa is a force of nature, and I do not mean that as a compliment. I mean it in the sense of a hurricane. She is wealthy, meticulously thin, blonde, and runs her life like a Fortune 500 company. She organizes the charity galas, she dictates the family holiday schedules, and she believes with absolute terrifying conviction that her way is the only acceptable way to live. Melissa does not have conversations, she issues directives disguised as helpful suggestions. When I first married into the Mitchell family, Melissa didn't know what to do with me. I was a marketing executive and I was fat. I didn't fit into her Pinterest-perfect aesthetic of what a family should look like. But because she couldn't overtly attack me without alienating David and Ryan, she resorted to the weapon of choice for women like her: toxic positivity. Madison, I found this amazing keto bakery. I bought you a dozen muffins so you don't feel left out when we eat real cake. Madison, I have a friend who's a personal trainer. She specializes in stubborn metabolisms. I gave her your number just as a gift. I always responded the same way, with an impenetrable, polite wall. Thank you, Melissa, but I'm perfectly happy with my routine. She hated it. She hated that I wasn't miserable. She hated that I didn't hate myself. To a woman whose entire self-worth is tied to her dress size, a confident fat woman is a deeply offensive anomaly. When Ryan and I announced we were expecting our first child, the family was thrilled. Ryan's parents wept with joy. David bought us a tiny, ridiculous pair of designer baby sneakers. And Melissa? Melissa immediately appointed herself the supreme commander of my pregnancy. I am throwing the baby shower, she announced at a family dinner, pouring herself a glass of mineral water. I already have a vision. It's going to be absolutely stunning. Don't worry about a thing, Madison. You just focus on, well, resting. You look like you need it. I looked at Ryan. He squeezed my hand under the table. We had originally planned to just have a casual backyard barbecue with our friends, but we knew that fighting Melissa on this would cause a massive, unnecessary family rift. David looked so relieved that she was taking charge of a family duty, and Ryan's mother was genuinely touched by the gesture. Thank you, Melissa, I said carefully. That's very generous of you. We'd love a simple, intimate gathering. Oh, it will be perfect, she promised, her eyes flashing with a strange, manic energy. A celebration of new beginnings. A fresh start. I should have recognized the red flags in her phrasing. A fresh start. Over the next 6 months, my pregnancy progressed normally. I was healthy, the baby was healthy, but my body changed. As it does. As it is supposed to. My face got rounder. My hips widened. I carried the baby low and heavy. I was exhausted, but I was happy. Melissa, however, seemed increasingly distressed by my physical form. Every time I saw her, the comments became more pointed, hidden under layers of faux concern. Are you sure your doctor said that weight gain is normal, Madison? My sister only gained 15 pounds with her first. You know they have postpartum bounce-back retreats now. I was looking into one for you. As a push present. Make sure you're walking, Madison. We don't want you to just let yourself go completely before the baby gets here. It's so hard to claw your way back. Claw your way back. She spoke about my body as if it were a disaster zone that needed emergency FEMA funding. I ignored her. I focused on my baby, my husband, and my peace. The baby shower was scheduled for my 32nd week of pregnancy. Melissa had chosen the venue, Canyon Rose Garden, an ultra-exclusive, incredibly beautiful botanical garden and restaurant in Scottsdale, Arizona. It was famous for its glass-enclosed conservatories and perfectly manicured lawns. It was, admittedly, a stunning location. Melissa had handled the entire guest list, inviting our family, my close friends, and a massive swath of her own social circle to ensure the room looked full and vibrant. There were 43 women on the final RSVP list. The morning of the shower, I woke up feeling beautiful. I had bought a custom-made blush pink maternity dress that draped perfectly over my stomach. My hair was styled, my makeup was flawless. Ryan kissed my forehead as he dropped me off at the entrance of the garden. It was a women-only event, per Melissa's strict traditionalist rules. "You look perfect," Ryan said, touching my cheek. "Call me when it's over. If she does anything crazy, text me a code word and I'll come pull the fire alarm." "I'll be fine," I laughed. "It's just finger sandwiches and diaper cakes. What's the worst she could do?" I walked up the stone pathway toward the glass conservatory. I could hear the chatter of 40 women. I could see the sunlight catching the champagne flutes. I walked through the double doors, a genuine smile on my face, ready to celebrate my son, and then I stopped dead in my tracks. Because there, dominating the entire back wall of the conservatory, directly behind the ornate wicker chair designated for me, was a massive, horrific display. It wasn't a diaper cake. It wasn't a banner that said, "Welcome, baby." It was a gallery of my physical perceived failures, printed in high definition on 3 massive custom-made foam boards, each standing 6 feet tall on heavy wooden easels. Across the top of the center board, in elegant, swirling gold calligraphy, were the words, "The glow up we're cheering for, Priya's journey back to health." My stomach dropped so fast I felt physically dizzy. I forced my eyes to scan the boards. The board on the far left was titled Before. It featured 4 massive photographs of me from 3 years ago. One of them was a photo taken at a family beach vacation in 2019. I was wearing a black one-piece swimsuit, laughing, holding a margarita. I was still plus size in the photo, but I was significantly smaller than I was now. I hadn't posted that photo anywhere. It existed only on Ryan's mother's private family iCloud Drive. The center board was titled Currently Waiting. It featured candid, deeply unflattering photos of me taken over the last 8 months of my pregnancy. Photos where I looked exhausted, swollen, eating at family dinners, or sitting heavily on a couch. The contrast was intentional, stark, and brutal. But the board on the right was the worst. It was titled The Goal. It featured a series of stock photos of aggressively thin, toned women pushing high-end strollers in Lululemon leggings, drinking green juice. Pinned beneath the stock photos were printouts of local gym memberships, keto meal delivery pamphlets, and business cards for a high-end medical weight loss clinic. The room had gone dead silent when I walked in. 43 pairs of eyes were locked onto me, waiting for the reaction. I looked at the faces of the women in the room. Some of my close friends looked absolutely horrified, their hands covering their mouths, staring between me and the boards in shock. But a large contingent of Melissa's friends, the women in the identical sundresses holding champagne, were smiling with a kind of tight, supportive, toxic pity. They thought this was a good thing. They had been primed to believe this was a loving intervention. I turned my head and found Melissa. She was standing near the dessert table in a pale yellow sundress, holding a champagne flute. She was glowing with the manic energy of a woman who had orchestrated a masterpiece and was waiting for the applause. She was waiting for me to break. She wanted me to cry. She wanted me to run to the bathroom in shame or cause a massive hysterical scene so she could play the victim and say, "Oh, it was just meant to be motivational. Madison is just so sensitive about her weight." She wanted to be the benevolent, thin savior trying to help the poor, fat, out-of-control pregnant woman. I took a slow, deep breath, pulling the oxygen deep into my lungs. My baby kicked against my ribs, a sharp grounding reminder of why I was there. I looked at Melissa, and I gave her a reaction she could never, in a million years, have anticipated. I smiled. Not a forced, trembling smile. A warm, brilliant, utterly impenetrable smile. I walked smoothly to my designated seat, the wicker chair positioned directly in front of the center board showcasing my pregnant body, and I sat down. I accepted the mocktail a waitress pressed into my hand. I smoothed the blush pink fabric over my stomach. The venue is absolutely stunning, Melissa, I said clearly, my voice carrying across the quiet room. Thank you for putting this together. Melissa blinked, her smile faltering for just a fraction of a second. She hadn't expected grace. She had expected a meltdown. Well, Melissa stammered slightly, recovering her poise. We just want to support you, Madison. In every stage of your journey, we know how hard it can be to bounce back. We're your village. I have a wonderful village, I replied brightly. Now, are those cucumber sandwiches? I'm starving, and that was it. For 3 excruciating surreal hours, I sat in that conservatory. I ate the sandwiches, I ate the cake. I opened the gifts, making sure to genuinely thank every single person who had brought something for my son. I posed for photos. I laughed at jokes. I did not shed a single tear. I did not mention the boards. I did not acknowledge the glaring 6-foot-tall insults looming right behind my head. My close friends followed my lead. They saw the terrifying calm in my eyes and understood that we were playing a game of emotional chicken, and I was not going to swerve. They rallied around me, blocking the view of the boards with their bodies when they could, keeping the conversation relentlessly focused on the baby. But the professional photographer Melissa had hired a woman named Steph, was doing her job. She was circling the room, snapping high-resolution photos of the event, the guests, and the massive display boards. I made sure to look directly into Steph's camera lens and smile beautifully every time she passed. When the shower finally ended at 3 o'clock, the guests began to filter out. Melissa approached me, looking slightly unsettled. The grand emotional catharsis she had planned had entirely fizzled out against the brick wall of my composure. I hope you felt the love today, Madison, she said, her voice tight. I stood up, towering over her slight frame. I leaned in and hugged her. It was a day I will absolutely never forget, Melissa, I whispered in her ear. Thank you. I walked out of the garden, got into Ryan's waiting car, and closed the door. Ryan looked at me, a wide smile on his face. Hey, beautiful. How was it? Did you get a lot of good stuff for the nursery? I looked straight ahead at the dashboard. The adrenaline that had been holding me upright for 3 hours was beginning to crash, leaving behind a cold, sharp, diamond-hard focus. It was memorable, I said softly. Ryan stopped smiling. He knows me better than anyone in the world. He heard the absolute zero temperature in my voice. He put the car in park. Madison, he said, his tone instantly shifting to high alert.
What happened?
I want you to pull out your phone, I said, and look up Canyon Rose Garden on Instagram. Check the recent location tags. He frowned, pulling his phone from his pocket. He tapped the screen a few times. It took less than 10 seconds for him to find it. One of Melissa's friends had already posted a sprawling Instagram story, heavily featuring the display boards with the caption, "Cheering on our girl's bounce-back journey." So motivational. I watched Ryan's face as his eyes scanned the image. I watched him see the swimsuit photo of his wife from 3 years ago. I watched him read the words "the goal" pinned above a pamphlet for a weight loss clinic. The color drained entirely from his face, replaced by a dark, terrifying red. She did this, he whispered, his voice shaking with a rage so profound it seemed to vibrate in the small cabin of the car. Yes, I said, at your baby shower. In front of 40 people? Yes. He stared at the phone for a very long time. The silence in the car was heavy, thick with the implication of what this meant for his family. Ryan loves his brother, but he loves me more. He locked his phone and tossed it into the cup holder. He gripped the steering wheel. I'm calling David, Ryan said, his voice deadly quiet. Right now, I'm going to rip his fucking house down to the studs. I reached across the console and put my hand firmly on his arm. His muscles were rigid, coiled tight. No, I said. Don't call him. Not yet. Ryan snapped his head to look at me, his eyes blazing. Madison, are you kidding me? You want to let her get away with this? She publicly humiliated you while you are carrying my son. I am not going to let her get away with it, I said, my voice steady, calm, and incredibly cold. But if you call David right now screaming, Melissa will play the victim. She will cry. She will say you're being aggressive, that she was just trying to help, that I'm overreacting because of hormones. She will spin the narrative. Ryan stared at me. He saw the expression on my face, The same expression I wore when I was negotiating multi-million-dollar marketing contracts, the expression of a woman who was looking 3 moves ahead on the chessboard. "What are you planning?" he asked. "Nothing dramatic," I said, leaning back against the leather seat and closing my eyes. "I just want to document everything first. Give me a few days." I spent the following 3 days quietly, methodically gathering ammunition. Several of Melissa's guests had already posted photos to Instagram and Facebook, including multiple clear, unobstructed shots of the display boards. I screenshotted every single one. I archived the stories. I made sure the timestamps and usernames were visible. Then I went deeper. I knew an event like this wasn't thrown together overnight. Melissa was too organized. There had to be a planning committee. There had to be a digital trail. I sent a private message to 3 women I deeply trusted from the guest list: my college roommate, Ryan's cousin who hated Melissa, and a coworker. I asked them a simple question: "Were you in a planning group chat for the shower? Do you have screenshots?" 2 of them did. They sent me 47 screenshots spanning 6 weeks of conversation in a group chat titled, without a hint of irony, "Madison's Makeover Surprise." I sat at my kitchen island with a cup of decaf tea and read all of it, every single word. The chat was a masterwork of Melissa's organizational energy applied to completely the wrong purpose. I saw exactly how she had sourced my 2019 swimsuit photo. She had messaged Ryan's mother asking for cute, candid throwback shots of Madison for a memory board at the shower. Ryan's mother, trusting and entirely innocent of Melissa's true intentions, had given her the password to the family iCloud drive. I read the messages where Melissa explicitly discussed the concept of the display boards. "Melissa, I think this is such a loving way to motivate Madison to bounce back after the baby. We all know how hard it is to lose the baby weight, especially when you're already struggling beforehand." And then, the smoking gun. The message that would ultimately destroy her. "Melissa, honestly, she's let herself go a lot since the pregnancy. We can use this as a soft push in the right direction. David says she responds well to visual motivation anyway." David had never said that. I knew David. He was fiercely protective of my professional accomplishments and always treated me with profound respect. Melissa had invoked her husband's name to legitimize her cruelty, lying to the group to make it seem like David endorsed the humiliation of his own sister-in-law. 2 threads later, she had sent a poll asking the chat whether to title the board's "Journey to Health" or "The Glow-Up We're Cheering For." 15 women had voted in the poll. 4 women, my friends, had raised immediate, vocal concerns in the chat. They had told Melissa it was inappropriate and cruel. Melissa had responded to each concern with some version of, "It's meant lovingly, trust me. I know Madison, she needs tough love to stay focused." 11 women had voted for the title and said absolutely nothing. I saved everything. I named the files by date. I created a secure, encrypted folder on my laptop. On day 4, I executed the final phase of my documentation. I did not call Melissa. I did not confront her. I called the professional photographer she had hired. Steph, the woman with the expensive camera who had circled the conservatory. "Hi Steph, this is Madison Mitchell, the guest of honor from the baby shower at Canyon Rose Garden on Saturday," I said pleasantly when she answered. I was wondering if I could get the full resolution digital files of the event. As the primary subject of the event, I have legal access rights. "Of course, Madison," Steph said enthusiastically. "Melissa already paid the invoice, so the gallery is yours. I'll send the Dropbox link right now." Steph sent them within the hour. The photos were breathtakingly comprehensive. Steph was a fantastic photographer, which meant the evidence was captured in stunning, undeniable 4K resolution. Every angle of the boards, every humiliating photo. And most importantly, the faces of the guests. 43 faces, some looking horrified, some complicit, all perfectly documented. I took the 47 group chat screenshots, the Instagram archive, and Steph's high-resolution photos, and I put them all into a single Google Drive folder. I shared the folder with exactly one person, David Mitchell. My brother-in-law, Melissa's husband. I didn't call him. I didn't write a long emotional paragraph. I just sent the link to his personal email with a short, 2-sentence message. "David, I think you should look at this when you have some privacy. Take your time. I'm not asking for anything specific, I just want you to know what happened." David didn't call me that day, or the next. He called me 4 days later, at 11:17 p.m. on a Thursday night. He didn't call me just because he had opened the folder, although that was the catalyst. He called me because after viewing the folder in his office, he had gone home, waited until Melissa was asleep, picked up her unlocked phone from the nightstand, and verified the entire chat log with his own two eyes. When I answered the phone, his voice was very controlled. It was the way a doctor's voice gets controlled when they have to deliver a terminal diagnosis. Madison, David said softly. Hi, David. Did you know about this chat before Saturday? No, I didn't know until 3 days after the shower. I heard him exhale a long, shaky breath. She sourced photos from my mother's private drive. She stole them, Madison. Under the guise of a memory board. I know. She wrote that I said you respond well to visual motivation. His voice cracked, a rare crack in the armor of a high-powered attorney. Madison, I swear to God, I never said that. I have never once spoken about your body. I want you to know that. I know, David. I never believed for a second that you said it. She needed an authority figure to validate her cruelty to the group, so she used you. She ran a poll, he continued, the disbelief heavy in his words. 15 people voted on display board titles for a pregnant woman's baby shower themed around her weight for 6 weeks. And nobody stopped her. 4 people tried, I reminded him gently. My friends tried, she overruled them. A long silence stretched over the phone line. I could hear the faint sound of traffic outside his window in the background. I'm looking at the folder you sent again, David said. Steph's professional photos. I can see your face in the background of one of the shots when you first walked in. His voice changed slightly at this, thickening with emotion. You knew the moment you saw it. You saw the swimsuit photo. You saw the gym pamphlets. And you sat there for 3 hours, Madison. You smiled. You ate cake. You opened the gifts and you didn't say a single word. I didn't want to ruin the celebration for the guests who had nothing to do with it, I said truthfully. And I didn't want to give Melissa the satisfaction of a meltdown. Madison, I'm sorry, he whispered. I don't have better words than that right now. I am so deeply ashamed of my wife. You don't need better words, David. You didn't do this. What do you need? He asked, a desperate edge to his voice. He wanted to fix it. He wanted to litigate the pain away. Right now? Nothing, I said. I don't want a public fight. I don't want family drama. I just wanted someone in this family who actually holds authority in that household to know exactly what happened and exactly who she is. He understood exactly what I meant. I don't know the exact details of the conversation David and Melissa had that night. Ryan and I were shielded from the blast radius, but David told Ryan, in brief, measured terms the following week, that it was the most difficult conversation of their marriage. When David had confronted her with the phone, Melissa's initial defense was exactly what I had predicted. She cried. She played the victim. She said the boards had been a loving gesture, a motivational tool to help me because I was struggling. David hadn't yelled. He had simply asked her to read, aloud, the specific message where she described me as having let herself go. She had gone quiet. He had asked her whose idea the title "The Glow Up We're Cheering For" was. She had gone quieter. And finally, he had asked her to explain why she had lied and used his name to justify humiliating a pregnant woman. He had demanded she apologize. Properly. In person. Or he would be packing a bag. Melissa called me on a Saturday morning, exactly 2 weeks after the shower. It was not the warm, manic, overly organized voice of a party planner. It was a smaller, much more careful voice. The voice of a woman who had realized far too late that she had picked a fight with someone entirely out of her league. Madison, she said, I need to say something and I need you to know I mean it. What I did was wrong. I put the phone on speaker and sat on the couch next to Ryan. I'm listening. The boards were not loving, she continued, her voice trembling slightly. They were humiliating. I told myself a story about why they were kind, and I was wrong to tell that story. And I was wrong to put it on display in front of everyone you know. It was cruel. I am so sorry. It was a real apology. I had not expected one that clean, but David must have drafted it for her. Thank you, Melissa, I said. I've taken down all the Instagram posts. I've personally messaged the guests who reposted and asked them to take them down as well. Most of them already had. I know, I said. I saw a pause, a nervous, fragile silence. Is there a way forward from this? She asked. I thought about it. I thought about the 3 hours I had sat in that gorgeous glass conservatory, eating cucumber sandwiches next to a 6-foot-tall display board, comparing my body to a Lululemon model. I thought about the 43 women. I thought about my beautiful swimsuit photo from 2019 being weaponized against my pregnant stomach. Yes, I said slowly. There is a way forward, but it starts with you deleting Madison's makeover surprise from every device you own. It means you will never use my photographs for any purpose ever again without asking me explicitly first. Done, she said immediately. And, I continued, my voice firm and unwavering, when my son is born and we take the big family photos at the hospital, I'm sitting in the front row, not behind anyone, not tucked away at the side to make the aesthetic look sleeker, front row, center. My baby, my body, my photo. My son was born 6 weeks later, 8 pounds 4 ounces, furious, loud, and absolutely perfect. I want to tell you about the birth, because the birth is the part of this story that nobody expected to matter. But it does. It matters more than the shower. It matters more than the screenshots. It matters more than Melissa's apology. The labor started at 3 a.m. on a Tuesday. Ryan drove me to Scottsdale Osborne Medical Center through empty streets, one hand on the wheel and one hand holding mine. And he didn't say a single word the entire drive because he knew instinctively that what I needed was not conversation but presence. The kind of quiet that says, I am here, I am not going anywhere. You're not doing this alone. 14 hours of labor. I will not romanticize it. It was brutal. It was primal. It was the most physically demanding thing my body has ever done, and my body, my size 20, supposedly unfit, supposedly let herself go body did it. Every contraction, every push, every moment where the pain was so immense, I thought the edges of my consciousness were going to dissolve. The nurses were extraordinary. My OB, Dr. Catherine Wells, was a woman in her 50s who had delivered over 3,000 babies and who treated my body with the same clinical respect she would give any body, because that is what competent medical professionals do. Not once did she mention my weight. Not once did she suggest my size was a complication. She said, "You're doing beautifully, Madison. Your body knows exactly what it's doing. Your body knows exactly what it's doing." I held on to that sentence like a rope. At 5:17 p.m., my son arrived. They placed him on my chest, warm, wet, screaming alive, and I felt something crack open inside me that I did not know was closed. It was not my heart. It was something deeper. It was the part of me that had been quietly, unconsciously bracing for someone to tell me that even this, even motherhood, even the most fundamental biological act a human body can perform, was something my body was too big to do correctly. Nobody said that. Nobody even thought it. The room was full of competent, compassionate people who saw a mother holding her child, and that is all they saw. Ryan was crying. Not the polite kind, the ugly kind. The kind where your face crumples and your shoulders shake and you don't care who sees it because the thing happening in front of you is bigger than your dignity. He put his forehead against mine and whispered, "Thank you, thank you, thank you." I named my son Elijah. It means my God is Yahweh in Hebrew. But I chose it because it means strength. And because it starts with a vowel, which means when you say it, your mouth opens first. You begin with openness. I wanted my son to begin with openness. The day after Elijah was born, the entire family came to the hospital. Ryan's parents drove down from Flagstaff. David flew in from a business trip in Chicago. And Melissa came. She brought flowers, not the aggressive, competitive arrangements she usually curated, but a simple bunch of sunflowers from Trader Joe's. She held them awkwardly at the door of my recovery room, as if she wasn't sure she was allowed to enter. "Come in, Melissa," I said. She walked in. She looked at Elijah, swaddled in his hospital blanket, sleeping against my chest with the absolute confidence of a creature who has never once been told he takes up too much space. Something happened to Melissa's face. Not the polished mask she usually wore. Something real. Something unguarded. Her lower lip trembled, and for a moment, just a moment, I saw a woman who was not performing. I saw a woman who was looking at a baby and remembering, perhaps, that she had once been that small, that unmarked, that free from the relentless machinery of appearance. "He's perfect," she whispered, and she meant it. We took the family photo in the recovery room. 14 people, counting some extended family who had driven in from Tucson and Phoenix. I am sitting in the front row, directly in the center of the frame, exactly where I told Melissa I would be. I am holding Elijah against my chest. I am wearing my blush pink silk robe, My hair is a disaster. My face is swollen from 14 hours of labor. I am a size 20. I am utterly exhausted, and I am the most radiant I have ever been in my entire life. It is my favorite photograph that has ever been taken of me, not because of the composition, not because of the lighting. Because in that photograph, I am not edited, I am not repositioned, I am not hidden behind someone taller or draped in a dark cardigan. I am front and center holding my child, taking up exactly as much space as I take up. Melissa is in the back row. She is smiling and it reaches her eyes. I think carefully, slowly, imperfectly, we are finding a way forward. She has never commented on my body again. She has never offered me a keto muffin or a gym pamphlet or a bounce-back retreat. Something shifted in her that day in the hospital room. I do not know if it was shame or growth or simply the recognition that a woman who had just pushed an 8-pound human being into the world with nothing but her own strength was not a woman whose body required improvement. She knows the boundary now, and boundaries, I have learned, are not walls. They are architecture. They define the space. They tell people where the door is and how to use it. But I kept the screenshots, all 47 of them. I kept the high-resolution photos of the display boards. I kept Stephanie's professional shots. They are still sitting in a secure, encrypted folder on my laptop, backed up to a cloud drive that Ryan doesn't even know the password to, because memory is documentation, and documentation is power. And as a fat woman, a mother, a wife, and a person who refuses to shrink, physically, emotionally, or spiritually for anyone, I have learned how to hold both. My name is Madison Mitchell, size 20, mother, marketing executive. Woman who sat through the worst baby shower in the history of the American Southwest and ate every single piece of cake. I'm still eating cake. Elijah likes the frosting. If this story hit something in you, if someone has ever used your body as a before photo or disguised cruelty as motivation, drop a comment. Tell me your story. I read every single one. Subscribe, hit the bell, and I'll see you in the next one. Your body did something extraordinary today. It carried you through it. That's enough. That's always enough.